Hello sunshines, it's Mo. All right, so today we're going to talk about diagnosing endometriosis. And if you've seen my last videos on this topic, you will know that one, I have endometriosis, and two, we've talked about so many things thus far. We've talked about risk factors, we've talked about symptoms, we've talked about kind of my story and how this all got started for me and how I eventually got diagnosed and how I even knew to go to the hospital and that whole story. So if you haven't seen those, go back and look at those and then come to this video. All right, so today we're going to talk about diagnosing endometriosis and the different stages of endometriosis and what they mean and some of the risk factors to be looking out for in a particular stage. So one thing I want to note before we get started is that I'm getting my information from the Endometriosis Foundation of America, where they classify the stages based on anatomical location of the endometrium in the pelvic and abdominal cavity. So if you're ready, let's get into it. All right, so stage one is the most minimal form of endometriosis, where the peritoneum, which is the membrane that lines the abdomen cavity, mixes with the endometrium to form like the that causes basically the problem. So it mixes with that tissue, and you can have some discomfort, but you're likely not really noticing it. You often could be asymptomatic and stuff like that. So just a short review, that the endometrium is the tissue that ordinarily lines the inside of the uterus. And when the thing that causes endometriosis is when that tissue is on the outside of the uterus, whether it be in the abdominal cavity or the pelvic cavity. It's supposed to be in the inside of the uterus, and now it's on the outside. So that's where the problem lies. So that is stage one. Stage two is where the endometrium is within the ovaries, forming an ovarian cyst. So you can have ovarian cysts in pretty much any stage after this, but this is the first stage where this is possible. So what I saw on their website, if you go on their website, you will see that they have like a diagram of the ovary, and there's like a little like ball of tissue that is inside the ovary, and that's what it would look like. And the thing that you will be worried about with this stage is the ovarian cyst breaking or causing a spread of the endometrium into the pelvic cavity, which will advance the stages of your endometriosis likely. So yeah, that can be concerning. The ovarian cysts can be painful, and that can be the source of the pain, not necessarily the endometriosis itself, but that is like a secondary cause of pain or source of pain. And then the third stage is where there are deep infiltrations of endometrium that covers organs within the pelvic cavity, which include the ovaries, the rectum, and the uterus. So at this point, the endometrium is just spreading, it's just swimming away in your pelvic cavity. It goes from the abdominal cavity to the pelvic cavity, so it's gotten in more places, which can cause more pain. And with this stage, you want to be concerned with what's called frozen pelvis, where the organs of the pelvis are locked in together due to the amount of tissue that is around them. So as the tissue kind of surrounds the organs, they can get closer and closer and closer together, which can cause the pain. And yeah, that will be usually the main source of pelvic pain in that stage. So stage 4 is also called the deep infiltrating endometriosis, meaning that the tissue covering the organs within and outside of the pelvic cavity is occurring. So it's not just in the pelvic cavity, it's not just in the abdominal cavity, but it's all around. It can basically cover any cavity, or any organ that you have. So some of the common organs that it may cover could be the bowels, the appendix, the diaphragm, the heart, which I found very interesting because, like, the heart, really? But the heart, the lungs, and the brain even. So that means that the tissue is just spreading. It's spreading, it's spreading, it's spreading. And that, this stage can often result in the patient having a lot of medication that they may be taking, a lot of surgeries as interventions to either stop or slow down the progression of the endometrium, just having a field day here. So there's that. And yeah, I said that. So the more tissue you have, the more surgeries you could have. Everybody's different. That's a disclaimer. Everybody's different, but that is what is more common. And stage 5. So one thing about stage 5 is that it's not widely accepted. Some people say there is 5 stages. Some people say there's not. But there's no real agreement on that. But this is obviously the most severe of the stages. And this is where the endometrium becomes adhesions or scar tissue. So it becomes thicker than what it normally would be. And it can cover more organs throughout the body, and it can just be thicker and just harder for anything to get through. So it can cause a lot of complications. And it's one of the most serious and significant stages, which hold the most significant and severe risk factors. One of them being infertility, due to the adhesions blocking the pathway from the eggs to the ovaries and the fallopian tubes. So there are other risk factors, there's other things that could happen, but we're not going to get into that. We're going to keep this a happy place and not go into all of that. But if you want to look it up, then there you go. But so where do I fall on this? I am a stage 4. I'm a stage 4. And one of the things I will say is that, one, I was diagnosed through MRI. I received an MRI. I received a ultrasound, diagnostic ultrasound, and that is where they saw it right away. They saw that it was had some bleeding associated with it. I also had a big ovarian cyst. My doctor said that it was about the size of a tangerine, which is not that big. And that was mainly the source of my severe pain. And and really, one of the things I want to mention here as well is that you can have different diagnostic tests and things like that to see what you're working with, but you don't really know if you have endometriosis until you have usually laparoscopic surgery or some type of surgery where they go in and look around and see the tissue and also test the tissue for cancer, for other things, to rule in and out different things that it could be. So I did have surgery to remove the ovarian cyst because it was really huge, and that is where they confirmed that it was endometriosis. My doctor, I was presenting, textbook as endometriosis, but they had to go in to make sure. And yeah, so there was that. And when my doctor went in, he did my surgery and everything went well. It took longer than they expected. It was supposed to be a 30-minute surgery, and it was really an hour and a half. So you can imagine the difference. But one of the things that he said, so in terms of location, it was the endometrium is currently around my uterus. It's over some parts of my ovaries. It's on my bladder. When I initially came out of surgery and stuff like that, I started to have urinary issues and things like that. I will get into, how I felt about it, all those things, probably in the next video. I have to make a note of that. But yes, so it's on my large intestine part of it. It is on my rectum, on the inside, of course, of my rectum. Yeah, a lot of places. They didn't see it, further up than that, but it is in those places, and that has caused a lot of pain, and it's not something that you want to have at all. Moderate to severe pain. Before I had the surgery, I was having 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 pain every day, while in school, while going for a walk. I couldn't sit cross-legged. I usually sit cross-legged on the floor and things like that, on my stomach and stuff. Couldn't lay on my stomach, couldn't get comfortable when sleeping and stuff like that. So it took a toll, definitely. And to know that you have some type of disorder or disease, that it's not something that you want to hear. But God is good all the time, and yeah, so that is where I'm at with my diagnosis. The next video will be like how I'm coping with it, how I'm dealing with it, what I think about it, and stuff like that. So as always, let your light shine before men. If you have questions down below, please comment down below. Let me know if you're dealing with this, if there's anyone out there that has endometriosis and would like to converse about it under in the community box. Let me know, and tell me what stage you're in based on what was talked about and stuff like that. And yeah, so God bless.